Annyeonghaseyo! Welcome to AfterNoona Delight. We're Leah, Megan, and Amy, romance novelists and your K-romance guides. So grab some dekboki and listen to your new favorite unnies. So, hey everybody, this is Megan, and I think I am the last to do our Summer Rogue episode, so I think it was Leah, Amy, and me. And for my Rogue episode, I'm very excited because I have a special guest, and that's Sarah.
Hello! I feel like I should go, hey there, and be like...
I know, right?
The Amy of the we tried this. I don't know if you've heard our, so I crashed the Rogue episode for Amy. So Grace and I,
did you?
Yeah, Grace and I did.
Yeah, you're right, you did.
Yeah, we did Twinkling Watermelon, and we just thought
that's it.
We thought we'd be so funny, and I would pretend to be Leah, and Grace would pretend to be you, and I think we're the only people that found it funny. We were cracking up. But anyway, hi everyone, it's me again.
Yeah, so it's Sarah. You can find her on Instagram at KDramaThis, and then obviously on the AfterNoona Asks pod.
Yay.
And let me tell you, first of all, that her and I, it is the end of July, and her and I have said we would do a podcast on this drama, since January.
Yeah, because it came out. Actually, did the first episodes drop in December or January?
Yes. First episodes came out in December, and then January is when it ended. And so that drama is Death's Game. So yeah, we've been meaning to do. I think I messaged Sarah like 3 months ago. I was like, let's get it on the schedule. And then she was like, okay, this is when I'm available. And then I dropped the ball. But we are back on it now.
Yes. Well, I've been busy too, so we've been busy. Just life.
I know it is. It's life, but you know what? Better late than never. But I guess before we start talking about Death's Game, why don't we talk a little bit about what we're watching now?
Yeah, so
it's fun, and people always want to know.
They do, and I want to squeeze. So, for people who might know me or follow me on Instagram or listen to AfterNoona Asks, you probably know that I usually doing quite a few dramas at the same time, partly because I've got more time than I think that you Noonas do, but partly just because I get massive FOMO. So if people are talking about a drama, I cannot not start it. Like I'll just kind of, do daytime watching, or, I'll squeeze it in anyway. But life has been so crazy for the last 6 weeks for me for various different reasons. That I am now down to just watching just one drama. I'm only managing to do one drama, but that drama is just got the whole of my heart. And it's so fun because I'm managing to binge it. So normally, because of my FOMO, I am watching them as they drop. So I only do the 2 hours a week, which is fun because it means you're watching it when everybody else is watching. But I got into K-dramas back when I could binge everything. So like binging for me is like such a hit. When you just finish something and you're not even going to watch the kind of mini prequels to the next episode. You're like, I'm already in the next episode, like zap next episode, and you go on. And and it's so nice. I've forgotten how fun it is to binge like a drama that is. So I think you and I are watching the same very bingeable drama.
We are. And I think I started watching it before you, although I'm not fully caught up. I think I'm like 2 episodes behind because I was out of town this week, so I was not able to watch the latest 2 episodes.
Yeah, but I haven't watched the latest one, so I think I just finished episode 10.
Excuse me. So we are watching My Sweet Mobster, which what's really funny is that every time I type it, it keeps getting auto-corrected to My Sweet Monster.
Yes, me too.
It's really annoying. I'm like, no. I mean, I would watch My Sweet Monster. I would, but that's not what this is. But I know that it was funny because Sarah had like posted on Instagram. She was like, okay, I'm going to start watching this drama. And I was unsure about in my opinion, I thought you were either going to immediately been like, this is not for me, or you were going to really like it.
Yeah.
And so the fact that then you posted and you're like, okay, guys, I'm delighted. I was really pleased because I think there is a lot of silly K-drama humor. And so I know that's not for everyone, but I will say that the silly K-drama humor in My Sweet Mobster, to me, still feels like it's done with heart.
Yes.
I don't know how to explain that. Like, I think Cafe Minandong for me and Leah especially was just a little too much silly humor, and I didn't
I think it was
it felt more for the sake of laughs than like, sometimes I think the humor in My Sweet Mobster is like character driven and stuff. And it's, you know, you have this like, you have Taegu who's playing, he looks like like what you would picture like a villain, probably.
Yes.
Like a casted villain. And instead he is, I guess, a hardened mobster with a big gooey center.
Massive gooey center. And
like he just wants to connect to his inner child, right?
And I think pretty much I speak for everybody. I think we speak for everybody on the net on how we're all just obsessed with his voice. His amazing, deep, gravelly, very sexy voice. And it's really unexpected as well. I'm not saying like, you know, we should be stereotyping, you know, where deep voices come from. But when you see him, you don't expect it. And then he just growls and you're just like, my God. Like,
and everything is like half a whisper. I don't think his tone goes, and I don't care. Whisper everything, buddy. Whisper everything. It's great. It's great.
I'm loving it.
And I actually find the female lead to be extremely entertaining, adorable. I think she's a lot of fun. The fact that she's essentially a kid's content creator, which I also find really interesting for a K-drama, that like that's
a thing.
I don't know, kind of like a different type of character. And she's a kid's content creator because she truly loves kids.
Yeah.
And I think that's really sweet. And their romance is adorable. And I'm just really into it. It's a really
cute.
Good cast.
It's so good. Hey, so I didn't realize. So the Mobster Squad is very
I think I know what you're.
We're just like so into. And anyway, I'm looking at the youngest one, and I'm like, he looks really familiar.
Yeah.
And then I looked him up. Did you have the same thing?
Mm-hmm. I was like, I'm pretty sure that's him, and I looked him up, and I was really excited. Yeah. So it's Park Jae-chan from Semantic Error. He's the studious character, I guess you would say, from Semantic Error, the quiet one.
Yeah.
And this is a different role. He's kind of cute. He's kind of like the little, I don't know,
he's the
Maknae
of the
Maknae of the mobsters, but they're not really mobsters.
No, they're not. They're ex-con, but I really like. It's got heart, hasn't it? It really has. Anyway, so if our babbling has in any way intrigued you and you haven't yet started my Sweet Mobster, we recommend, and you could binge and then catch up and then, you know, be in with the ride that everybody else is on for finale week. Yeah.
And I want to talk about one other drama I'm watching. So I did start Red Swan. I have only seen the first 4 episodes. So I might be a little behind. I've seen 4 episodes. I think I might be a little behind. So let me tell you, I just need to tell you a little bit of a journey I had over the 4 episodes of Red Swan. It was like 1.5 episodes, and I messaged Amy and Leo on Slack, and I was like, guys, I don't think I can, what is this?
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I don't think I like it. It's takes itself too seriously. I don't understand. Like, I kind of didn't get the vibe.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't think this is my vibe. But I was like, you know what? Rain is great to look at.
Yeah.
Great to look at. And I was like, I'm going to give it, at the time, only 4 episodes were out. So I was like, I'm going to give it the 4 episodes before I kind of make it a final determination. And by the end of the 4 episodes, I messaged them again, and I was like, hold on, I'm revising my reaction, because this is the thing about Red Swan. And I would love if someone tells me maybe I'm wrong, because I have not seen Penthouse.
Right.
But I'm thinking it's the vibe of Penthouse, meaning very dramatic, over the top reactions, familial things, like it's like the rich people and their family drama. It does kind of takes itself too seriously. It's kind of mock Jongi.
Yeah.
It's like something will happen and a character will gasp loudly, and then this like dramatic music will pound in for like one little thing, and I'm like, what is happening? It feels a little soap opera-y.
Yeah.
Soap opera-y.
Yeah.
So once I realized that was the vibe, now I'm into it. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
I feel like I think I thought it was going to be like, I don't know, kind of some of the more action-y K-dramas, like Lawless Lawyer or maybe even like Healer. It's not.
Right.
It's like over the top. And like the stuff that happens, like I will be honest, like I did have to gasp a few times. Like I'm like, where are they taking this storyline? This is insane. So now that I get it,
Yeah.
I'm into it. Because now I'm kind of like, okay, yeah, like shock me.
Yeah.
Do what you're going to do. And Rain is doing, I'm just saying, top tier. I love him. He's doing a great job.
And are you getting the bodyguard feels that you and Leah have been seeking?
So actually, kind of, yeah. So he does have chemistry with I don't know if everyone feels this way. I do. I feel like he has chemistry with the female lead. She was very untrusting at first, but you can tell it's almost like now her instinct is, oh, he will protect me.
Yeah.
Even if she's not fully willing to admit it yet.
Right.
And I'm interested to see where they're going to take it, but I personally feel the chemistry. And I also thought maybe they weren't going to show us that chemistry until later on. You get the like initial vibe in like episode 1, which surprised me. Like he's shirtless in episode 1, and she like catches herself staring at him, and I'm like, oh, we're doing this in episode 1. Okay. So anyway, I'm watching it on Disney. So in the US, it's like on Disney.
Cool.
So
yeah, I think it's on Disney for me as well. Yeah. I've seen other people say that it was more Makjang than they were expecting. So I think that, yeah.
Okay. So you heard that too, because I'm like, am I nuts? And because I haven't seen Penthouse, but I feel like maybe it's giving me that vibe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So I'm happy with what I'm currently watching.
Yeah.
I will say that.
So I kind of slightly started Miss Night and Day, which is
did you? I was going to ask about that.
The Netflix drama, that stars I've forgotten her name, but the actress we all love, that usually plays like mums. So I'm always happy when it's they get to play something different.
It is
Lee Jung-eun. Yeah.
Lee Jung-eun.
Yeah.
And we've seen her in a million things.
We've seen her in loads of things. And she was great in Our Blues, she also didn't have to play a mum. And I loved her for that. That was really great.
Mm-hmm.
And then the actual female lead is Jong Eun-ji, who I last saw in Reply 1997. So that was from a while ago, actually.
She was from A Pink.
Oh, yes. She's a singer. Yeah. So she was,
nice.
Yeah. So it was all quite meta, like Reply 1997. It was full of people that used to be idols. And then we have JiHoon, who I know him most from, I think you guys know him from Zombie Detective. I think I know him most from Mr. Queen, and his initial like chef cameo.
Right.
But I've only watched like I think a couple of episodes, but that's what I'm going to pick up when I've got up to date with my Sweet Mobster and have to wait for tomorrow's episodes to drop.
I know, right? But it's so delightful.
But it's fun. I really like the premise. So for those of you who don't know, basically it stars a girl in her 20s who is trying to get a job and really struggling, and then one night she just wakes up and she finds that she's in her 50s, and obviously she's now been played by Lee Jung-eun. And so basically in the day she's in her 50s, and in the night she's back to her 20s self. So
okay.
And then they're solving this. There is a kind of an overarching mystery, because obviously that's what we have in rom-coms. And then I guess we're gonna resolve some way, because the male lead is working with her in the daytime, but then kind of getting to know the 20-year-old version, I guess, in other ways. So I haven't got as far as that. So there is obviously a romance that's kind of more slow burn, I think, that's gonna come through. So. But it's working for me. It's like it's kind of the humor is again like it's on the edge of like being a bit too much sometimes, but it brings it back in. So it's working for me.
That's great. I mean, I think Sweet Mobster might be a little similar. There were some scenes that were just like over the top, kind of silly, but then all of a sudden it brought it back with like a heartfelt moment. Yeah, exactly. Like think like the playground scene, which I won't spoil, but it's super silly, but then it ends with this beautiful like kind of touching moment where they first kind of connect.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Well, a drama that is not like My Sweet Mobster is Death's Game.
It's the actual opposite. Yeah.
So let's get into what you all came here for, which is, the deep dive into Death's Game with Megan and Sarah. So if you're not familiar with Death's Game, it is a fantasy mystery thriller based on a webtoon of the same name. The drama stars Seo In Guk and Park So-dam and has cameos by tons of familiar faces like Chae Si-won, Lee Jae-uk, Kim Ji-hoon, Kim Jae-uk, Oh Jung-se, and more. We'll get into why there are so many cameos in a bit, because these names really only scratch the surface of the extended cast. Death's Game, as we mentioned earlier, was released at the end of 2023 with a 4-episode part 1, and then ended in January 2024 with a 4-episode part 2. In the US right now, it's available to watch on Amazon Prime. As always, we're going to start with a brief spoiler-free discussion, but a trigger warning that suicide is a major part of this drama, and so it's also a part of our discussion. So if this is triggering for you or you're sensitive to that type of discussion, just proceed with caution because we kind of can't avoid talking about it. So before we get into Death's Game and what it's all about, let's discuss what made us watch this drama in the first place. Was it the cast or the premise or what?
So for me, the cast is insane. The cast is insane.
Yeah.
And anyone who kind of follows me or listens to AfterNoona Asks will know that I'm a massive, massive Seo In Guk fan. So much that I'm flying to go and attend his fan meet in DC in September, which was cancelled. I was meant to go in April. It got cancelled at the last minute, threw everyone's plans up in the air, and then they've managed to reschedule. He has got a visa now. It's all confirmed. So he's doing a date in DC, he's doing a date in LA, and there are tickets available in September.
Awesome.
So it's late September, so the 27th and 28th of September.
Okay.
But follow our podcast for more details, our Instagram account, because I have to say, like, the show promoters are not great at promoting his fan meet. But anyway, I'm a huge Seo In Guk fan, so I actually knew that this was coming up as a project of his, so I was going to watch it anyway because of him. But then when I realized it also had this really big cast, I was really, really intrigued, because I really love ensemble cast dramas, like even Western dramas that are just full of stars. There's just something really appealing for me. It's like celeb spotting, but within a TV show. But then the trailer came out and it just looks so good, so stylish. So I always knew I was going to start this when it landed. And then actually I didn't go into this because of the director, but when I looked up like what their previous work was, because I thought this was so well shot, like this guy must have done other things. It turns out that he also directed 2 of my other favorite dramas, which are also Grace's faves, and they are 18 Again and Go Back Couple. So
I didn't know that. Okay.
So I think this director obviously really enjoys these kind of like the common themes of going back in time and having a second chance at relationships and getting to see, characters from a different point of view from when you first went through, your life knowing them, is obviously a theme for both of those dramas and for Death's Game. So it was really interesting because obviously they're not thriller, they're not violent, so they're very, very different dramas in that way, but they've got this kind of overarching thing of redemptive second chance relationships.
You're right. And thank you I didn't know that about the director, but it does make sense. You're right. The themes make sense. I would say like the actual like genre.
Very different.
This feels like a jump.
Oh, yeah.
But good for the director because I loved it. And like you, I saw a star-studded cast and I was like, I'm going to watch this. Like, I actually did not even know what the premise was. All I knew was that Seo In Guk kind of went into these different bodies. Yes. Like, I did know that.
Yeah.
But that's it. I didn't know anything else, and I was okay with not knowing anything else. So I knew it had something to do with, like, death and stuff, but I didn't really care. I was like, sign me up. So I really went into it not knowing much, and all I can say is the cast pulled through. Like, if you're watching for the star-studded cast, they did it.
You
they
won't
did
be
it.
disappointed. Yeah, yeah.
No. Everyone, blew me away.
Exactly. And I think, like, to be honest, they could have easily have been just stroll-on cameo type things. They could have just dialed in their performance, but they absolutely did not. They came and they did some of their best work, I think, in a really intense scenes, and then they left the drama, and that's why it's just such high quality stuff, because you're really getting the best of, they really came and delivered.
Oh my God, yeah. They were like, all right, I have 3 days on set. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sleeping. I'm doing everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the synopsis provided by Asian Wiki. Choi Yi-jae, played by Seo In Guk, grew up in a poor family background, but he had a bright and kind personality. After 7 years of failing to find a decent job, he is now full of desperation and despair. He decides to end his life. Choi Yi-jae thought everything would be over after taking his own life. But after his death, he faces the being Death, played by Park So-dam, who is standing in front of the gate to hell. He is given the punishment to experience death 12 more times through different bodies. If he wants to avoid going to hell, he must survive. So what do we think of this synopsis?
I thought it was pretty good for what it was. I mean, this is obviously in the context of other K-drama synopsis. So this is my bar. But also, like, I think some of the genius of this drama is that it's pretty complex and interwoven. I don't want to get into spoilers, but that's and it can't really explain that too much without spoiling the drama, I think, because some of that is the surprise, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I think it's as good as it could be.
Yeah, I agree. I would say compared to most K-drama synopses, this is pretty good. I was impressed. I was like, okay, it actually has stakes. The stakes are, if he doesn't survive, he has to go to hell. So, okay, thank you for giving me the stakes.
For a change.
Which often the Asian Wiki ones don't. So, yeah, I think it's pretty decent. I agree that the complexity of the drama is what made it, but then that also kind of is that's a spoiler, basically. I think that's what they're trying to give to you as a surprise when you watch the drama. By the way, I'm sorry, I am losing my voice a little. My daughter had a field hockey tournament over the weekend. I yelled a lot. And I can feel my voice like getting raspy. I kind of sound like the mobster from not quite. No, I don't. But anyway, that's why I sound a little off. I'm sorry.
You don't sound off. I think you sound, husky. Okay. Nicely husky.
Yeah, I do sound a little husky. So I got one of the reasons I asked this question on our script for today is because I got this question. A lot of our listeners always want to know the violence level of dramas. Totally fair. So I do think we need to talk about the violence level of Death's Game. So what is it?
Yeah. So I'm one of these people that checks violence levels with Megan. I'm one of these people that like DMs Megan and says, like, so Gyeongsong Creature, can I do it? Do you reckon? What do you think? Anyway, so I would say, I'm quite squeamish. I would say up to part 1 was fine. I thought it was pretty K-drama fine. So K-drama generally can get pretty violent. If I tell you there's a storyline about bullies, for example, then we're talking kind of quite a classic high school bully violence, I think. And or the violence that you do see is over quite quickly. So she repeatedly shoots Yi-jae in the head with this whatever gun, this fantasy gun. And you see like a bullet travel through his head. And there's just stuff like that goes over quickly. But episode 5 is another level of violence. Another level. So as I've said, I'm pretty squeamish. So what I will say is that I spent a lot of those scenes not actually watching the drama because I couldn't. But the drama does a very good job with the sound effects of telling you basically what's going on. So if you're like me, that you can't kind of handle the visuals of the violence, but you can kind of still track the story through squelchy sounds and you're okay with that, then I think you're going to be okay.
Squelchy! It was squelchy.
There was lots of squelchy. But if you're someone that can't handle even that level, then I think specifically that storyline is going to be problematic for you.
Yeah. So Amy, I had told Amy, I watched maybe 3 episodes and I was like, Amy, the violence isn't bad. And then I got to episode 5 and I basically texted her. I'm like, abort. Oh my God. This is the level of violence in episode 5 was some of the worst I've seen. Again, we're talking human on human violence. I like to specify because I can handle monster on human violence or something like that. Or I can often handle mother nature violence. Human on human violence is always going to be hard for me. I will admit this was, and I'm pretty, I can take a lot. This was almost too much for me. But I will say, as you said, it's kind of one scene.
Yes.
So once you get through that one scene, I think you're kind of okay though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. And also that one scene is not pivotal to the plot. You could read a recap of what happens and you wouldn't lose. There are some quite complex plot things that happen, but not in this particular graphic scene. So you could skip this scene too and not really lose the thread of the story.
Yeah. So, any comps for Death's Game?
Yeah, I'm interested in what you think of comps. I kind of struggled a little bit. For me, even though I watched it, obviously it's late, it came out later, but it gave me quite Shop for Killers vibes, actually. Or rather, the other way around, Shop for Killers gave me Death Game vibes. I think in this kind of strategic plotting and keeping us guessing, and feeling like the writer knew what they were doing in the story they're trying to tell. And they did it super stylishly with a really great cast. I mean, it's highly emotional. That's the thing. I found with Shop for Killers was I was expecting a thriller, but I got really invested in the backstory and in the relationship between this niece and the uncle, even though technically they didn't spend that much time together. But how such a short drama, because Shop for Killers is also, what was it, 10 episode or is it?
Yeah, something really short like that, less than 10 or less.
10 or less, maybe 8. Managed to pack so much in the same way that Death Game, because Death Game is only 8 episodes. And sometimes, when I was running through this script, I kind of kept reminding myself, wow, this was only 8 episodes. They did this much and made this much of an impact in just 8 episodes.
Yeah. I would say Death's Game felt way longer than 8 episodes. But I actually thought it was a full drama. And then I wrote the script and I was like, wait a minute, it was only 8 episodes? It felt much longer and not in a bad way.
Yeah.
They did every episode had a lot in it basically. Yeah. A lot. They covered a lot.
There's no
filler. It was constantly moving. I think Shop for Killers is great. I also think, even though Death's Game is not a revenge novel, a revenge story, I would say some of the popular revenge dramas are similar in that you're emotionally invested and there's violence. So what's interesting is Park So-dam, who plays Death. She starred in Ballerina, which is a movie, which is basically just a revenge movie. Yeah. And it's really good. So I would say if you really liked her as Death, because I thought she played an awesome Death, you should check out Ballerina because the movie, it was really, really good. Yeah. And how would you sell this drama to those on the fence?
So I think for me, it really is. I feel like I'm getting a bit almost OTT, but I really love this drama. I love the fact that I started 2024 for me, a 10 out of 10 drama. So it's got amazing acting, as we said. It's really tightly plotted. It's highly emotional, surprisingly emotional, because you read that plot synopsis and think that it might just be like a thriller, and it absolutely is. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. Keeps you guessing. It's a true assault to all the senses because there's a lot going on. But it's only 8 episodes, so it's not even a big time commitment. And as we said, there's no filler. It's all killer. Wall to wall cameos. So if you're someone that like me kind of likes that kind of celeb spotting cameos, and you've seen quite a lot of K dramas, basically every scene there's it's him, or oh, it's them, you know, like even the side characters are, you know, for a K-drama fan, they're stars of their own. And so a lot of the fun for me was just seeing which big star was going to hit the screen next and in what role.
For real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will talk more on the spoilers about this, but I just wanted to bring up 2 actor reasons you need to watch this drama. Number 1 is Oh Jung-se, who, for those of you who don't know, he's been just recently in The Revenant. I fell in love with him in It's Okay to Not Be Okay, where he plays Moon Gang-tae, and he was also in Comedia Blooms. And he's just amazing. So if you're a fan of him and his work, as I am, his part in this drama is a reason to watch this drama alone, because you see some of the best of him, but in a really tight, like, however many episodes
it's crazy.
he was in.
Yeah.
And then I have to carefully word this because I didn't want to spoil anything, but this drama also gives you the best one-to-one, like, face-off between 2 dark, sexy, twisted people played by Kim Jae-wook and Kim JiHoon together on a screen. And it's amazing. So I don't want to spoil any more because I can't talk about why they're there, but it's just worth it. So those are my 2 actor reasons to sell it.
Yeah, it felt like a battle of like K-drama giants. Like those are both such powerful actors.
Yeah.
And so to see them acting opposite each other, where they're both kind of like an alpha male, it was really, really good. It was really interesting.
And you could really tell they enjoyed it as well, couldn't you? You really felt like they really loved playing off of each other too.
Yeah. The drama will keep you guessing. And I think that to me is one of my favorite things. So it's going to keep you guessing with an amazing cast. And as we talked about, Seo In Guk, his like character gets injected essentially into these bodies, but somehow you still see him in each of these characters. How?
I know, right?
I don't understand how they do it, because I could like feel him in each of these bodies. And I'm just like, how did they do this? This is incredible. I loved it.
I so agree. And the reason we kind of feel the difference as an audience is because it's a really good conceit of the drama, right? When he gets into the character, he doesn't know what character he's going to be. And sometimes he's in that character for a while trying to work out who he is and what it is and where he is. And then suddenly he gets like this shimmering memory orb comes and goes into his brain. And then we as an audience, and he is a character obviously, gets to see the backstory, this character's backstory. So then we get to see the characters as they were originally played by the actors playing that character. And then we see Seo In Guk be them, and they are always subtly different. And because these actors are amazing, right?
Right. So the actors would have had to do that, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Because they're different people when you see them.
They are.
It's so good.
It's so good.
It's so good. Okay, and then I kind of asked this question mostly for Sarah. Before we get into spoilers, what do we think about Seo In Guk's performance compared to his other performances?
I mean, as a fan, I do think he is best at playing the more extreme and, I'll be honest, red flag characters. So this one was quite straight, in inverted commas, for me. So it's not the best of his roles to show his range, but we did get to see a lot of, he's really good at emotion, and he's really good at flipping between emotions. So we get, his fury, his despair, the cunning, the smarts, he's great. Like, I'm biased, but he was really great in this drama.
I like Seo In Guk, but I haven't seen him in as many roles as you have. And I was honestly blown away at what he did in this drama alone. And he wasn't even on the screen that much, because you have to remember, he's only on the screen when he's, quote, hell adjacent.
Yes.
So he's not quite in hell yet. He's like hell adjacent. He's like, there's these big doors and hell's like right on the other side. And he's just like, he was probably playing this on a green screen.
Yeah.
Probably most of his role was in a green room.
Yeah.
And the fact that he did what he did opposite Park Sodam was amazing.
Yeah.
So I loved it. And so now we're going to get to, before we get into the spoilers, we're going to do a K-pop rec of the week, mainly because I have a really good one that I need to share with you guys. So I have talked about JiHoon on this podcast before because they're really fun. I love them. And I just think they're really good at summer songs. Actually, the first song I ever listened to was one of their like summer releases. And this summer, they released another song. It's called Klaxon, which first of all, I did not know what that meant.
You didn't know know what Klaxon meant?
No.
Right.
No idea. I had to look it up. It's like a horn.
Yes.
Right? Is that what you call it in the UK?
Oh, is that not like a common American word? What do you call it then? Like when somebody,
The horn?
I don't know. Oh, right. So like if someone was about to start a race or a game or something, and they're not blowing a starting gun, but they're blowing, that for us is a klaxon. Is that?
Oh, we usually just say like a blowhorn.
A blowhorn, right. Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
Well, they call it klaxon, so I had to Google it.
Yeah.
So I honestly thought it was like a Star Wars thing. I was like, what's the hand gesture? That's like I don't know. I thought it was like something weird. So anyway, I looked it up. It doesn't matter.
Do you mean Star Trek? Are you like talking about...
Maybe that's it. One of those.
Like Klingons?
Oh, God. Yes. Amy and Leah are going to be so disappointed.
They're going to be cracking themselves.
I know. But anyway, the klaxon.
Yes.
They love it. I'm saying that they in the song they say like hit the klaxon, so that they like go like honk honk honk. It's just like very funny. Okay, it's a very funny, silly summer song. And at first I didn't like it, but now it's been in my head for a solid week. Like I'm talking randomly, I'll just go honk honk, hit the klaxon. I'll do that. Like I'll randomly. So it's a super fun song. It's perfect for the summer. In one performance that they've done on the music shows, they're all wearing like lifeguard uniforms. You know what I mean? Like they're really leaning into like the summer vibe, and it's very cute. So I recommend it if you want something fun. It's called Klaxon, and it's by JiHoon. I love that you're like, yeah, I know what a klaxon is.
It's just another one. It's just another example of us being, like one language divided by two countries.
The things that K-pop makes me Google, And then I realized I was like, oh, this is like common. Like I should have known
This is actually a word. And I'm curious to know if teacher Amy knows the word klaxon or whether it is an American thing.
I am curious. Oh, well, if you're listening to this podcast, maybe drop in our Instagram comments or something if you know what a klaxon was. Probably everyone's gonna be like, yeah, Megan, we all knew. Whatever. Okay. So we are now entering the spoiler section of this deep dive on Death's Game, which, by the way, I think I'm going to call this episode Death's Game, No Filler, All Killer. So thank you, because it's a fantastic title. Anyway, it's a meaty drama and a lot happens. If we didn't get that across to you yet, now just understand. So in the first episode, EJ is frustrated at not finding a job. He's on his way to an interview when a strange man runs into traffic, is hit by a car, and dies in EJ's arms. That sets off a chain of events where EJ, shaken up, bombs his interview, breaks up with his girlfriend, gets kicked out of his apartment, and seeing no way out, takes his own life by jumping off the rooftop of his building. This all happens in episode 1. As punishment for this decision, Death, essentially the character, who is a person played by Park So-dam, tasks him with trying to beat Death 12 more times as different people. If he doesn't, he goes to hell, which EJ witnesses as being full of fiery horrors. We don't see it, but Seo In Guk lets us know by his facial expressions that no one wants to go to hell. Okay, it's horrible. There's much rending of garments, and it's terrible. Okay. So EJ is never given any details when he wakes up in a new life. As we kind of mentioned, Death shoots him with like a different life gun or something, as I'm calling it, and he wakes up in a new body. He has to rapidly assess who he is and what he has to do to survive until a flying magical orb, yes, it's kind of weird, delivers all the memories of that particular life. He also inherits skills from that particular person, such as in one, he's a gangster who can fight and perform a high-speed escape on a motorcycle. So in these different bodies, he's YJ with all YJ's memories, and he's in a different body with those memories as well. And as we mentioned, every actor seemed to put their all into these cameos. And so let's just get into it. Which cameo did you like the best? I know this is a difficult question, but let's go for it.
In some ways, it wasn't just because he blew me away. So I already mentioned it's. I mean, I did squeal. Like, who wouldn't squeal when? I remember squealing badly when Lee Jae-wook rocked up because he just looked so hot. Like it just suddenly came on screen. I was like, it's Lee Jae-wook. But yeah, it was probably Oh Jung-se. So I'm really grateful. I mean, they know what they were doing when they cast him, and they gave him one of the meatiest, most emotionally demanding roles, and a really pivotal role in this drama to one of, I think, best actors of his generation. And we basically see him at his absolute best because he does we get all his range. So at the start with his backstory, we see that, I mean, because we meet him, don't we? Right at the beginning. Actually, I remember he comes on, he has this tiny part being this like basically lazy cop that doesn't charge Tae with speeding. And he's shown in part 1. And I remember going like, is that it? Is that all we're getting of Oh Jung-se? I mean, that is ridiculous. Like, you know, and everyone was like, I think he's going to be in part 2, Sarah. I was like, okay, right, I'll calm down. I was like, if that's all we're going to see, that's all we're going to see. I feel very cheated. Anyway, so we'd already seen him be this like, I mean, he plays a schmuck like so well, doesn't he? Because he is not an upright policeman at all, right? He is selfish. He's like trying to, you know, he gets spat on but doesn't care, you know, like just it's clear that his colleagues don't respect him. And so we get all of that, like his you know, his ability to play like just a not very pleasant character. And then we see him with Seo In Guk in him, and he's completely different. And there's a scene when he's standing in front in a crematorium, and he's just breaks down. And I remember crying so hard at that scene because there's something about when Oh Jung-se cries, it just really gets me. So yeah, I think we just saw, and we got to see him, you know, be an action hero, and we get him to be, you know, and the way his particular life ended as well was just so, like, you knew it was coming because you knew there was, I mean, that's the other thing with this drama. You always knew it wasn't going to stop. You always knew that he had to get to his 12th life. You know, it wasn't suddenly, right? It wasn't like he'd suddenly make, you know, life 3 work and that would be, you know, it. So right. I was already dreading like the end of Oh Jung-se's character. But when it came, it was really like, oh, like he went sacrificing himself. So yeah, he was my favorite, hands down.
Yeah, I loved him too. I thought his character was a huge turning point in the drama for Seo In Guk. Like emotionally, he kind of signaled a new act.
He did.
So he had a lot of heavy lifting in such a short role.
Yeah.
I actually am not sure why. So maybe I'll work it out when I answer it. One of the, maybe it's because I'm so attached to Lee Jae-wook. I don't know. I'm so attached to him from
Alchemy of
Souls. But I really loved him. I just thought, well, first of all, the fact that we got a
mini reunion.
Yeah, between him and his oh gosh, who's the Yoon Soo.
Yeah.
So the fact that we got a little reunion between them, they were both in Alchemy of Souls, but in this one they're like enemies. I love that. But Lee Jae-wook was a character who was basically given money to plead guilty for a crime committed by Tae-woo, played by Kim JiHoon. So, but I think he was like promised no jail time, but he ended up going to jail. So he went to jail for a crime he didn't commit. And when he gets out, there's, you know, he's resentful. He wants, and Tae-woo is worried he's going to tell the truth. And I just thought Lee Jae-wook was so good in this. He went through so many layers of emotion within his storyline.
Yeah.
And then his death to me was so heartbreaking because he was killed by, so when Taeyu got in his car accident, he killed someone. And the father of that girl who was killed Lee-Jae-wook because he was like, you killed my daughter. And of course, Lee-Jae-wook's like, no, I didn't. And Lee-Jae-wook was so close to like running away with like millions of dollars.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just really loved his character. I loved what he did. And it was just different. I don't know. I loved him. But again, I think I'm just really attached to him. And then, of course, we have the powerful Kim Ji-hoon and Kim Jae-wook, which we'll get to.
Yes.
I feel like I didn't mention them because we'll get to them.
Yeah, they were great. And I really liked Lee-Jae-wook's scenes with Yoon Soo as well. I thought they had some good two-handers as well. Like you felt like
and I saw
they enjoyed being together again.
I think they did. And I saw some behind the scenes where like, you know, Lee-Jae-wook has to be like so cruel to Yoon Soo, but the cameras stop rolling and they're like laughing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So, it's funny. The answer you have for this next question is also mine.
Yes.
Some of the lives were hard to watch. Were there any that were particularly rough for you?
I mean, I think you would feel this most ways, but like, I think especially if you're a mum, watching the baby was really hard. And I thought it was so smart. Like this drama was constantly surprising. So I think this is like, I mean, I didn't say it in the Seoul section, but I just think for somebody, I mean, I feel like Megan, you love this kind of drama. And I feel like you've watched a lot of these kind of dramas. And so for a drama to come along and surprise you, it's doing something quite novel, right?
Absolutely surprising.
Yeah. And I also thought it was a real classic K-drama thing because actually there was something like, honestly, a little bit comic about being reincarnated into a baby. And then you've got Seo In Guk's voice going like, what is going on? Like, who am I?
Like, how am I a freaking baby? How am I a baby?
And then the baby.
At first I was like, no.
Yeah. And then the baby goes.
You should have seen my face.
Yeah, it was. And then he'd speak and he'd be like really puzzled. And then the actual baby on the screen would start going, wah, and crying. And then, you know, you couldn't kind of help laugh because it was, I mean, deliberately, I think, set up to be a little bit comedic. But then, geez, you realize this baby's been physically abused and you're like, oh my God, like, and how is he going to try? Like, he's powerless. He can't speak. How can he possibly save himself, you know? And
I think that was the frustrating part.
So cruel.
It felt cruel by death. This is when death felt cruel because she was like, here, I'm going to put you in the body of a baby who's being abused. You can do nothing. You can do nothing to save yourself. And I think that was part of his frustration. Once he died as the baby, which I don't even want to get into how the baby died. Just, you can probably imagine when we say the baby was abused. And I think he was like, that wasn't fair. That wasn't fair. And she's like, I think part of it was, obviously we'll probably get to this, but valuing life. The fact that he didn't value his life when he could control himself, when he had control of his life.
Yeah.
And now she could say, well, like, this is another situation. This baby wanted to live and couldn't because of other people's choices. Yeah. At first, I know I thought that this drama would be more vignette style, similar to the drama Tomorrow. As in, okay, he's going to be in all these different lives and he's going to have to survive all these lives.
Yeah.
Okay. That's how I thought it would be. And that's why this drama surprised me. Because as Lee-Jae is thrown into different lives, and we realize there is a specific reason that death chooses these lives for him. Most are connected, and he even gets thrust into like a serial killer murder mystery. So what did you think of this narrative choice, and did this elevate the drama for you?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, I think I went in this thinking like, oh, I'm going to really enjoy it because of this cast of cameos, you know, people, and it will just be fun, like celeb spotting. But yeah, to get into it, and obviously it came as a surprise because, like I said, similar to you, I thought it was going to be episodic, and I think part 1 was episodic, but obviously it was sowing clues for part 2 to then start drawing together. And I'm still amazed it did this in 8 episodes. But I mean,
I know generally
I'm someone who doesn't watch dramas trying to guess the plot. Like, I'm not a big plot guesser. I think Amy loves like getting it right, and I just like to feed me stuff. Like, I am basically dumb. Just feed me scenes. And I love being surprised and I love being taken on a journey. So when I realized this was all being interlinked, that there was a reason why we keep seeing Kim JiHoon in different like scenes and roles, that we then build, and that he also is building up this specific set of skills, because also I love a superhero drama. So this felt like this as well.
Yeah.
That's when I thought, wow, what a clever drama this is, because it's taking all of these lives which are not connected at all, and it's saying to you, actually, they are. And this is why. Yeah. And done in such a tightly plotted way. Like, I just have so much admiration for it.
Yeah, and you don't realize it at first, because the very first life is you're Chae Siwon, and you're in a plane, and the plane's going down. Yeah. And he just thinks he's some rich dude, because he's all excited. He's on this, like, private jet. Yeah. He's like, holy shit.
This is going to be great. Yeah.
This is going to be great, because he's still kind of selfish EJ at that point, you know? He's like, cool. And then the plane crashes, and it's, you know, and I love, so you think that's just a life. You don't realize that is the brother of Kim JiHoon, and Kim JiHoon killed him. Like, you don't realize that till later. I love the storyline where I mentioned before, he was like some, I don't know, mobster type guy who could fight and ride a motorcycle.
Yes.
And he learned that there was like millions of dollars hidden. And so he's like, I'm going to get this. I'm going to run away. This is going to be great. And then he's killed.
Yes.
But he's the only one who knows where the money is. So in the next life, when he wakes up, that's when he's Lee Jae-wook. And Lee Jae-wook is in jail, goes to jail. So he's like in jail, and he's like, as soon as I get out, I'm going to go find that money. So it's kind of cool that the lives, he's like doing things from previous lives, or trying to, you know, I love that. I thought it was really smart. But then they're even more connected than that. Like, all the lives are kind of connected. And to me, that was an interesting choice, because I didn't know that was going to happen. Yeah. And I also found that is definitely, to me, what made this drama good to great.
Yeah.
Good to fantastic.
And also in doing that, like, they gave EJ this kind of agency that obviously he felt like he didn't have, because originally he just keeps getting shot by death, put in a life, something like a baby where he's got no control, but then realizes, and this is in the Oh Jung-se piece where he's driving it all together, that he does have agency. He can plot things because he knows, you know, stuff that's going to happen to him, and he can do things like make a recording of a particular squelchy scene, and then discover it when he's a police officer.
Discover it in his next life.
Yeah, exactly. So he begins to show us, you know, and this is where because we feel for EJ at the start, because his backstory is just so, like, in some ways so very common and very understandable and very K-drama. But then we really gain admiration for him, because he is really smart with it. Like, he's often in these lives for a very, very short amount of time. He keeps things from death, like the money thing, you know?
He does.
It's really fun watching that, and obviously just trying to work out what he's trying to do. Like, what's the plot? Like, what's he trying to...
Yeah, because sometimes he'll wake up in the next life and he's like hitting the ground running, because he's like, I got stuff to do.
Yeah.
I got stuff to do, and I got to accomplish it before I die in this life. You know what I mean? It's so cool.
It is.
And again, this is very funny, because I asked this question with a specific scene in mind, and it's what you said.
Oh, is it? Because I thought you'd go for Squelchy.
Nope, we'll get to squelching. This drama had a lot of shocking moments and surprises. So what was the moment that made you gasp the loudest?
So basically, right, so I don't think you watched Perfect Marriage Revenge, right? So Perfect Marriage Revenge was on pretty much just before Death's Game. And a lot of us on the Patreon watched it, loved it. Sung-hoon was the star in it. So the fact that he was a cameo in this again was just like, oh, we get to see him again, because he was a real fan fave for us who watched it. And I was like looking forward to his performance and everything. And we get him for like, I don't know, maybe 30 seconds, a minute, 2 maybe maximum, before he's strapped into this non-parachute flying gear. And then the next minute, splat, like he's literally on the ground. Like, that's the end of Sung-hoon. Like,
that's it.
That's it.
It was the most wild thing. Like I didn't think it. I was like, did that really just happen?
Yeah.
Did this drama really just do that?
Yeah.
Where they like one of the lives is just him crashing into the ground,
Yeah.
like splat, like parachuting out of the ground. He's like trying to hit a bullseye.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, or a target.
But he misses the bullseye and dies.
Yeah, just like
on
that.
screen for, and it because he's like, I can do this, and it's like,
yeah,
the sound it makes, like
it was
everything. And what's funny is it's like nationally it's broadcast, so they show all these people watching the TV waiting for him to like land on
world record attempt. Yeah,
world record attempt. And when he dies, they just show like all these people going, like just staring at the screen in horror. And I was it was one of those K-drama moments where I was like, that did not just happen. Did not just happen. It was so clever. It was the most shocking.
It was. And I think because I think this is where it leaned into the webtoon, because it had that comic element, that feeling of like, you know, like Roadrunner going splat on a road or something. It had that kind of cartoony kind of feel to it. But then also I think it flipped expectations, because like I think K-dramas can often do this thing of like slow-mo, you know, shot from 5 different angles. And so you're kind of used to this kind of thing, like, which will then foretell this thing that's going to happen. But they don't do any of that, right? There's no slow-mo. There's no 5-angle shots. It's just Sung-hoon, splat, he's gone.
Splat. Like, that's it. And then EJ wakes up in again, hell adjacent. It was like just so funny. And I agree. You're not going to mourn the guy because he was on screen for 2 minutes. And I feel like the way it was shot was to be semi-comedic.
I think definitely.
So a little bit of dark humor, I would say.
Yes.
In a way.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about the squelching scene, aka the Battle of the Serial Killers, featuring Kim Jae-uk and Kim Ji-hoon. Because, well, we have to. Did this entire scenario surprise you? And how much did you cringe during the dismemberment scene?
Yeah, it was a massive shock. I mean, I think in some ways, like I think we've just said, you know, some of those lives were kind of comedic, right? But this life, it's like we were entered a slightly different drama, didn't we? With this, the serial killer, and he's so dark. It's so dark. It's like shit. Like, okay, so he's a serial killer who's an artist that paints with blood that's splattered from when he dismembers people. Okay,
right?
Okay, that's quite a setup. And then obviously it's Kim Jae-uk. And he looks fucking hot, like so hot, right? He's so sexy, swirling around in his black coat and his hair tied in a ponytail and just like all angles and that amazing jaw. But he's a psychopath, like an absolute psychopath. And so, you know, you as a viewer, as a K-drama fan, are like both seriously attracted and also seriously like, oh my God, like what?
Like repulsed. Yes. Yeah. I know. It's so bad.
And then they have a psychopath off, because then he meets Kim Ji-hoon, who is basically unhinged and also a psychopath. And it's like, they're just nihilistic, aren't they? They were like, you know, that scene they have with each other where they're just like, and also they're very good actors as well. So there are moments for both of them where they're like, oh shit, this is not the usual person that I face off to. Like normally I'm the evilest alpha person in the room.
Yeah, like I'm the evil alpha.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, you know, I don't think the drama needed this, but you know what? I'm not complaining. Yeah. It's just that, like, I feel like we could have gotten back at Park Tae-woo, who plays Kim Ji-hoon, like another way. Because Park Ji-hoon, oh my God, I keep messing up the names. Let's just go with the actors because it's easier. Kim Ji-hoon is, I don't know if he's not the villain of the series. He's an antagonist for sure.
Yeah.
And he's the reason Lee Jae-uk went to jail. He's the reason Choi Si-won died. Like he's killed a lot of these. He's contributed to the death of some of these lives. And then he also runs over Seo In Guk's girlfriend and kills her. Yes. And when that happens, and when Seo In Guk wakes up as Kim Jae-uk and realizes he's a serial killer. Like, he's like, oh, this is who I am. I dismember people and I make paintings with their blood. Kim Ji-hoon loves these paintings because he's a psychopath, just like Kim Jae-uk. But Seo In Guk, as Kim Jae-uk, is like, I will use my serial killing body to get back at Kim Ji-hoon. And he does. And so there's a scene where he is on the dismemberment table because Kim Ji-hoon essentially gets the best of him and cuts off his limbs. And I'm talking, they showed way more than I expected. I was shocked. At one point, they show the table from like a distance, and it's Kim Jae-uk sitting on there with no arms and legs.
Yeah.
And just blood everywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is really happening. Like, I'm really watching a dismemberment scene where Kim Jae-uk is just a torso on a table. Like, what is happening? But of course, this is where we talked about, he records the whole thing. So when he wakes up in his next life, he gets Kim Ji-hoon essentially arrested. But but my point is the scene between these two, it was so evil, but yet it was also, God, these actors were so good. Okay, Kim Ji-hoon plays a great freaking villain.
Exactly.
He's been playing villains a lot lately.
Well,
he was a villain
the original Oma.
Yeah, the original. You're right. He was. Oh, you're right. Original Oma from Flower of Evil. And he is also like a really terrible villain in Mask Girl. I mean, he's just a terrible person.
Yes.
Or maybe it was Ballerina.
I think it was Mask Girl. No, Ballerina.
Whatever.
No, Ballerina.
He is.
In the GIMP math thing, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, this was great. I did watch the dismemberment scene, but it's rough. It is. It's a rough watch. I think it's
the chainsaw as well that's just not helpful.
The sounds of it and the squelching.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's great.
Right, so just a quick segue, a quick mini plug. So Seo In Guk has a YouTube channel where he kind of speaks to friends and guests and things. And he has an episode with both Kim Ji-hoon and Kim Jae-uk where they talk about this drama and they talk about their scenes. So you might have seen clips of it. Yeah, it's really, the whole episode is really fun because they really kind of go into it. Into the episode and kind of what they felt like at the time and stuff. So it's fun.
Yeah, I agree. I've seen parts of it and it's really good.
We can stick it in the show notes, actually. Let's put the link in the show notes. Yeah.
Good point. Okay, so EJ, in many of his lives, is confronted with the after effects of his suicide, from his mother to his girlfriend. So while he's trying to survive in each life and solve a serial killer mystery, he also has growth himself as EJ to learn to appreciate life and overall see his decision to take his own life as selfish. He's definitely a different person at the end of the drama than how he starts, which how couldn't he be? He just died 12 times. So what are your thoughts about how this drama handled suicide? Did you find there to be religious connotations, or was it more of like a fantasy with life lessons?
This is such a great question, and I'm very interested to hear what you think. I think for me, I mean, so for those who don't know, I'm British Chinese, so I also kind of bring like this, I have a Western and an Asian kind of background to me, so I can kind of see things from both sides. So one of the things that I think there's cultural connotations here for me. So a lot of it, I think, feels like, I mean, often East Asian dramas have a heavy dose of Confucianism, which is technically a religion. But I don't think anyone says that they're Confucian these days. But the influence of it is deep and pervasive in East Asian culture. So for me, it's kind of a comment on, so because on the one hand, Confucian belief is that suicide can actually be morally justified, right? And we've seen it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we've seen it in plenty of dramas where in some ways it can be praised because it's redeeming yourself from disgrace, from social criticism. You're preserving moral integrity, or you do it out of loyalty. So it can be seen as a courageous thing to do. And I think we in some way see part of it in Korean culture as well, where we have people that have been disgraced in public life take their own lives. So this is kind of, this is not an ancient thing. This is a modern day thing as well. So I think for me, the juxtaposition of this drama is actually saying also the impact of your suicide is bigger than just this Confucian belief that that suicide can be something honorable. It also impacts your family. But then also, like, I think for me, kind of, put against it is that this Confucianism also makes a big deal out of how you are part of your family, part of your village, part of your community and your society, and you have a role in that. So then there were lots of not undertones, actually quite explicit things of how suicide can be a selfish act, especially I think in that final death we saw, with him being in his mum's body, and the impact it had on her, which I think sometimes as a Western viewer you might then see as a bit, without a bit more of that understanding of the Confucian culture, it might seem as being an attack on how suicide can be portrayed as being selfish. But I think it's definitely overlaid with a lot of this Confucian belief of, like, your life is more than your own, you know, in the same way that when you work hard in your exams, you are doing it not just for yourself, but your parents that have sacrificed a lot, your grandparents that have sacrificed a lot, you know, everybody's put so much into you succeeding. So you are doing it on behalf of so many other people. And your life is not something that you lead on an individualistic basis. It's not just yours alone. So I think that's quite a lot of the heavy overtones of it, which I think if you watch with a Western lens, and I certainly felt like this, the Western part of me felt that it was treading quite a fine line of being quite ableist, because it didn't talk a lot about the mental health issues that EJ was facing at the start of this drama that led him to the crisis point where suicide is the only option that he feels like he has. And he's doing that because of this pressure cooker environment in South Korea, all of which we see the effects of, but are never really actually addressed by this drama. So I do see, like, I think people who might have criticized this drama handling of this suicide, like, I can see where they're coming from, even though I think it's maybe a bit much to jam into an 8-part drama, realistically. But I get where they're coming from.
No, I love that explanation, and I'm glad. That's part of why I asked this question, because I really just wanted to hear your take. I'm not a religious person, so for me, I'm a little I'm not squeamish is the right word, but I'm always gonna have like a little bit of I'm always gonna bristle a little bit at like seeing some, like, he's punished for suicide.
Yes,
that never is. I'm never gonna like love that. And so I think if the drama would have taken like a full Christian route, I would have been like, no, this is like not for me. In a way, to kind of get over that initial bristling that I had for being punished for committing suicide, when again the guy, I mean, he needed some help.
He did.
Okay, like, you're right. There's like a vast amount of issues going on. He wasn't just like, this looks fun to jump off a building. Like, there was a lot of issues going on with poor EJ. So in a way, I had to look at this as a bit of a fantasy. I had to look at it as, okay, death and hell. This is like a fantasy villain, and you know what I mean. In order for me to kind of really handle it all, and that I you consume media how you consume media, and so that was sort of like the best way for me to watch it, because I wasn't like, I don't know if I really want to watch this guy who had already felt like he'd been through hell on earth,
yes,
to then
be punished.
Yeah. So there were many times where during the drama where I was like, oh my God, what did he do to deserve this? Like, what did he do? Yeah. But I admit, I also think it's okay to show people that, you know, they're not an individual. They live in a society, they live in a family usually. And there are going to be effects from what you do. And so I think it's okay to show how his girlfriend mourned him, how his mom mourned him, how like his one decision affected other people. And I was also okay with that. I just still was like, I think this is a lot.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, it was a lot. I do remember you.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Though,
it does.
Yeah,
because I think it's quite similar to what you said on Tomorrow, for the deep dive tomorrow. I think I had more reservations about the way that suicide was portrayed in Tomorrow, in the sense that it was flat out a sin. I think it was more grey in Death's Game. I think there was more vagueness around it, which I think I could live with. But in Tomorrow, it was flat out like it was a rule, right? It was a rule in their version of the world that they built that suicide was a sin.
And that is the same way I had to view that as, I was like, all right, this is the rule of the world. Yes. And that's how I'm going to have to watch this, because if I don't do that, I probably won't be able to enjoy what I think I do remember, I think I said the same thing for Tomorrow.
And I agreed with you. Listening to it, I agreed with you. I thought, yeah, that's kind of how I had to.
However, but I appreciate the explanation of the Confucian, and I know I've listened to you guys talk about it before, because I want to understand Confucianism better. So the fact that this also revolves around the fact that he's not necessarily an individual, and he's doing, so that also makes sense why, again, he was given a lesson, like this is like value life and things like that, which was, I think, a major part of the drama.
Yeah.
So, in the end, EJ fails every mission until he wakes up in his mother's body. Yes, his mother's body. I had to get over a lot of ick factor here. I will tell you right now. I was like, what's he going to think the first time he has to go to the toilet? Like, I had to push a lot of disbelief inside and just pretend like he never had to pee. And he never had to see himself naked. No. Okay. Anyway. But at this point, EJ had been through 11 lives, so I'm pretty sure he was just like no longer traumatized by this. So as his mother, EJ finally confronts the suffering that he caused, or that was caused by his suicide, and he ends up living as his mother for over 30 years until he dies, until she dies, a peaceful death of old age. Well, he and she, I don't know. So when he sees death again, he admits that he realizes now, the suffering he caused from his choice, and he asks for one more chance to start again. So death is nice to him for once, and she grants him that wish, and he is transported back to his own life as EJ, standing on his rooftop in the rain the moment before he jumps. And this time, instead of ignoring his mother's call and ending his life, he takes her call, and he's like, "Oh ma," and he's like crying because he'd just been through like death. He had been through like 12 lifetimes at this point. Okay, and he's like, "Oh ma," in the rain. Yeah. So, what did you think about this ending?
Oh, well, I mean, first of all, that final episode, I think I basically cried the entire episode.
Same. Oh, it was brutal.
I was so bit. My face was so puffy at the end of it.
Yeah.
And obviously we have Kim Mi-kyung as well, like, the nation's mother. So, she's our K-drama mum as well. Like, we've lived through so many K-drama lives with her. So the fact that she's like the actual main person at the end was also, just killed me. And her backstory kills me. I basically just didn't stop crying. So I have, when I've recommended this drama, I have said, this is heavy emotional. I just warn you, it's
like emotional warfare by the end.
It is. It's just an assault on all of your sense, everything. Like that final episode just was so hard. Good, but so hard. But yeah, I actually really liked the ending. I felt it was redemptive. I felt it was earned. And I actually wanted more. I wanted a second part of this drama where we get all of the knowledge he's had from all of his past lives, and he applies them all to take out Tae before he starts doing all this damage. And he actually goes around and saves all these lives, including that baby. Including that baby. He's going to hunt that baby down and find out what his name is and everything. And he's going to save them all. And I would so watch that drama. Like, how satisfying would that be? I'd love that drama.
That would be the most satisfying. I didn't even think about part 3, but
Death
you're right.
Game 2, part 3 and 4, or however you want to listen to it.
So, look, that's sort of my slight issue with the ending, is that I feel like we were meant to care about all these lives, and we were supposed to we're supposed to care about every life being precious, but then in the end, it's like really only EJ that's like given a second chance in a way. And so I felt a little like, oh, but what about the baby? And so look, originally I was saving Death's Game for a pod on rewriting the ending. But I think I'd rather talk about it here as an alternative ending. So I'll kind of explain my original idea, which again, I didn't like write it all out. This is just kind of like bare bones, how I kind of thought things would go as we were watching. So I was kind of surprised when they didn't.
I'm interested.
And I will say this, the longer I think about it and looking back, I see very much value in the original ending. So I'm not saying, it's not like a drama where I'm like, that ending was terrible and I'm rewriting it. Yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm saying alternative ending because I think there are things that felt a little open or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to get into the weeds here a little bit about some of the plot. So if you didn't watch it, I hope this isn't too confusing. If you did watch it, you'll know what I mean. So remember the man who ran into traffic and died in EJ's arms?
Yes.
So first of all, we don't know his name.
No.
He's literally only called office worker. So I will call him office worker. So we learned that when that man ran into traffic, Kim JiHoon's character either hit him or just witnessed the death. I don't remember which one, but either way, he gets out of his car, sees this like bloody, broken man who's dying. And that's when it awakens a serial killer bloodlust in him. True. That is like the way it's presented to us. Is that when Kim JiHoon is like, I would love to watch people die.
Yes.
Like that is what happens in the original. And so for me, and so when at one point EJ wakes up in that man's body. So I knew it wasn't the 12th life, but I still was like, this seems like a very pivotal moment when he wakes up in the office worker's body, because you know that was like very much a catalyst for some things that happened.
Yeah.
So I thought that would be the part where EJ says to himself, oh, hey, suicide isn't the answer. But this was very much in the moment where EJ is still feeling incredibly sorry and mad and helpless. And he's not there yet. Like he hasn't had the character growth yet into like Oh Jung-se's body when he has like come to terms with things. So EJ just repeats history and goes running into traffic. And they don't show it, but you like see him run. You hear the traffic accident, like that it happened. So essentially he just repeats history as and that's when also he wakes up to death again. He tells her to send him to hell, that he's done, but she tells him he still has one more life left. So then that's when he wakes up in his mother's body. Yeah. So it's still very much at the end. Yeah. Oh, I guess so. The Oh Jung-se part did already happen.
Yeah.
But anyway, but he still is like, I think he's just feeling very hopeless and defeated. So my idea is I wanted EJ to wake up in that office worker's body, and I wanted him to change history there. So, because for me that, again, that was the moment that was a catalyst to a lot of what happened. That's Kim JiHoon loving murder, EJ failing his interview, and, a man dying. Like, that's another man who died.
Yes. Nameless man.
By suicide, a nameless man.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to see EJ value that office worker's life as much as he should value his own. I wanted him to care about the after effects of that man's suicide as much as he cared about his own loved one suffering. So I guess for me, I would have made that life the last life, not his mother's. And I know the thing is, though, that's why I consider this an alternate ending, because I do think him waking up in his mother's body is such a pivotal role, but I'm not sure if like he needed that to understand her suffering. I think he kind of could have come about that in a different way. And gosh, it was hard for me to watch him being in his mother's body. That was just such a hard narrative choice for me. So yeah, I wanted him to change that decision of the office worker. So in that sense, I think too the drama would have given the office worker a backstory, a name, make him a little bit more of like an important part, and give him a purpose where he shows death in that office worker's body, that he understands the suffering a selfish decision can cause. And then, just maybe when he does finally die, he wakes up in EJ's body on his way to the interview. So there's no man running in front of a car, no death. And then even if he fails the interview, show him like handling it without a fateful decision. And maybe in the end too, then, I don't know, help solve the serial killer mystery of the guy painting. So maybe you're right. Because the original ending for me did feel like a full circle, but I kept thinking to myself about that man that still ran in front of a car. I kept thinking about Taeyu having I kept thinking about all these things that happened over the course of the drama that are like still going to happen. So maybe, of course, now that I wrote that, I'm like, well, maybe a part 3 would be better, like, and do your thing. So I don't know. What do you think? I guess is.
Yeah, no, I really like it. I really like your alternative ending. It is a really good point as well that it was, as you said, it was interesting as well, like narratively to have gone back to that body, because obviously, as we said, every time he jumped into another body, we were like, well, what next? I think at the start, it was all just a bit like, oh my God, like this. I mean, oh my God, this. But then in this part 2, when you realize that they're all interlinked, I think I remember there's 2 actually. One was the homeless guy, which was I think the one before this, and then the office.
I forgot about the homeless.
Yeah, and then the office worker, and that one I just really felt like I wasn't quite sure what role those 2 roles played. I was by that point expecting in the drama and expecting them to link into something a bit more. So obviously the fact that the homeless guy more so, the office worker obviously it did make sense because actually that set off that chain of events. And obviously Kim Ji-hoon's character was also in his interview, right? He asked him questions in that, and so he was.
Oh yeah, he was.
Yeah, so he'd obviously just come from that space of like realizing how much he wanted to kill people, I guess. And then we went straight into this interview. So yeah, no, I think that's a really I would love to see that play out too, because I think that's also a really good stepping board of like how things could change if in that split second he decided actually he wasn't going to allow this to happen. Right.
He was going to like stop the chain of events in a way, even if he had to live as that office worker, you know? I would say though, like it's hard. This is when I feel like I want to see both. I want to see it written numerous ways. Like I want to see an alternative ending, or I want to see a part 3. For me, I think when I stopped watching, you know, when it was over, I did kind of have to say to myself, he's going to do something about all of that.
Yeah.
I had to like tell myself that,
exactly.
even though they're not going to,
even though they're not telling us.
I had to be like, he's going to find that baby.
He's going to find that baby. I mean, I
tell myself that.
I think probably Kim Jae-hyuk is probably too far to be saved, but obviously then he's saving the people that he's dismembering like the whole time, rather than saving.
I think Kim Jae-hyuk is going to keep murdering people and making paintings.
Yeah,
I don't know if we're doing much about that.
No, I think we're just going to try and save the people that he keeps murdering. By having Oh Jung-se discover his, inner heroic policeman.
Oh, I know.
Earlier or something.
Ugh,
but yeah,
so good.
So,
anything or any final thoughts?
Yes.
On Death's Game. Now that I feel like we've been talking for a while. I thought this was going to be short. That's okay.
Well, that's the thing, because it's so much was packed into 8 episodes. So I had a question. What was with the woman that died at the bottom of the building that we kept cutting to and they never explained? Did I miss something, or what did you think that was about?
I don't remember. I remember they kept showing it. And I think by the end I was like, because I assumed that he killed her when he jumped from the building, like he landed on her.
Right.
But they never, I thought we were going to get some sort of like backstory on her.
Precisely. I assumed that's what happened too. So I thought she was going to be, at one point I thought she was going to be one of his lives. And
that would have been amazing.
And then we'd seen that he ended up killing himself. Like that would be kind of poetic justice of death, just going like, this, do you see what your suicide did? It literally killed someone. But they never went to it. I remember feeling at the end thinking like, oh, we never did go back to that woman.
Nope. They just kept showing this like heel, and it was like a tease, but it was a tease that never came to fruition.
Was there a child and her bunny as well? I think, was it? Like, so it was basically saying this was somebody's mum that you killed as well. You've made someone motherless. Yeah.
I think I thought that I wonder if that was before the baby or after the baby, because I thought maybe it was like the baby's mom.
But then she deserved to be splattered.
Yeah, that mom and dad were terrible people.
So yeah, I think for me, I'm really glad that we did this pod because I really think this is an underrated drama. Like, I think it was pretty big, but I think it wasn't, like, I think it's legions better than Squid Game for me.
Yeah. I thought it was better than Squid Game.
And I thought the same thing for Moving as well, which is also miles better than Squid Game. And I just think they're both suffer from being on a platform that just doesn't do K-drama advertising as well. Like, I think Squid Game succeeded because it was on Netflix. Would Squid Game have been so big if it was on Disney? I really don't think so, because Disney is terrible at it. I mean, I think Amazon Prime is actually quite good at its own dramas and the advertising of its own dramas, but it really isn't. I mean, even the interface and stuff, like, I remember I had to search for it, and it's like, you guys should know that I only come to watch K-dramas on your platform. So you should just be showing me, like Netflix would, right? Netflix would totally know why you signed in and feed you like a gazillion, like my whole Netflix wall is wall to wall K-dramas. Because that it knows what I want. But with Amazon Prime, I'm still having to search for like the drama by its title, which is madness.
I actually forgot where I watched it.
Yeah.
I searched every single like app I had, and I was like, and then I had to Google it. I'm like, where is this drama? Where did I watch this? And I was like, oh my God, Prime?
Prime, yeah.
I didn't even know. I agree. I thought it was extremely underrated. And I tried to talk about it for sure, like on our Patreon and things, because I loved it. It is an emotional investment. Like I will say, it's not something where I'm like, oh, you can just enjoy these 8 episodes. No, they're going to like destroy you. So that's the only thing, but I agree. I thought it was so well written, well acted. No, amazingly acted. I mean, that was the strength. Because even a good story can only take things so far if it isn't well acted.
Yeah.
So yeah, I completely agree.
10 out of 10, guys. I hope if you've got to the end of this pod and you haven't watched it, then I hope we sold it to you, because it really is.
I hope we did too, because it was really good. And yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit more about AfterNoona Asks?
Yeah, I wanted to do a quick plug, so thank you. So we've been going for, like, I think officially as our own pod almost a year, but unofficially because but unofficially we launched on your pod, obviously. So it's been longer than a year, I think. So for those of you who don't know, we are a sister pod to Afternoon Delight called AfterNoona Asks, and we try and ask and answer questions that come up in our Asian drama watching, and we try and do it from our lens. So it's myself and Grace, who is Korean American, and I'm, as I said, British Chinese. So we bring our own kind of Asian diaspora viewpoint on the topics that we're covering. And where we can, we like to feature guests who come with their own area of expertise. We try to prioritize own voices as well. So far we've covered Korean and Chinese language for drama fans, Confucian, like we did a Confucian 101, and then we've done a Confucian unpacked thing of My Dearest, which is wall to wall Confucius. We had Grace's Korean teacher, Yu Jung Sam, who came on to talk to us about the Korean education system, and she basically told us that yes, indeed, everything that K-drama shows us about how many flipping hours that K-drama students study is actually how much they study in real life, which is crazy. We've lucky enough to done trips ourselves to Korea, so we talked about that. We had Leah on, who came to tell us about her short trip to Seoul, and we also bring on Patreon members to have a chat to us about their drama watching. So we did like a year-end review. We did a kind of like a third of the first third year of like 2024 and how it's gone for us. We also have AfterNoona ND, which stands for Neurodivergent, where I'm joined by Jay and Francie, who were the guest hosts on your AfterNoona Delight Extraordinary Attorney Woo episode, and we discuss various autistic coded characters as well as some more generic autistic and ADHD podcasts that are linked to dramas. So if you want to check us out, we're on AfterNoona Asks on any platform.
Yeah, please do. Their podcast is so freaking delightful. I am a little behind, but that's because I'm behind on literally every podcast I listen to. But I absolutely love their podcast. It feels like I'm listening to two friends chat. Like if you like how Amy and Leah and I interact, it's the same with Grace and Sarah. So I really do check them out, please, please, please.
Thank you.
So yeah, I hope you enjoyed our coverage of Death Game. That was again, I know it's late, but better late than never. Okay, we did it. And it's still available on Prime.
It is.
So you can still find it and catch it. And please let us know if you liked it, if you didn't. And yeah, well, I'm sure we will have Sarah on again. Well, so now it's been 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
You were on last week.
Oh, that's right.
They're getting a lot of Sarah this summer. That's great. I love it. I love it. Okay, but thank you very much for taking time because it's now 11:30 at your house.
It is.
Yes. So, thank you so much for taking because this is your precious K-drama.
I know. I'm off to watch My Sweet Mobster. I'm going to try and fit in one episode before bedtime.
Yeah, I'm gonna try that tonight too. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on, Sarah, and thank you for listening, everyone. And we'll catch you next time.
Annyeong.
감사합니다. Thank you for listening to AfterNoona Delight. Where can you find us outside the pod? Head on over to afternoonadelight.com. That's AfterNoonadelight.com. You'll find links to all our social media, our book recs, K-pop and K-skincare recs, and if you want even more Afternoona Delight, because really who doesn't, you can join our Patreon, where you can choose the patron level that's right for you. Join in daily K-drama conversations, listen to bonus podcast episodes just for patrons, and participate in our monthly live K-drama support group via Zoom. We can't wait for you to be a part of the community. Until next time, annyeong!